Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Casey Eck, and I'm taking over for both Rob and Joe. So I'm here with the newest reporter in the newsroom, Ethan Becker, and it seems today that the lunatics are running the asylum. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to maybe just touch base with you, Ethan, just kind of see how things are going. You're back working in Mankato, a place that you're familiar with. So what's new? How are things going?
Yeah, things are going really well. I've really enjoyed this first month or so of being able to kind of get back and get out into the community, see some new faces, see some old faces, and really get to be able to do something that I really enjoy and something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job. Just from the stories I've read yours, you have a really good sense of distilling sometimes complex, sometimes boring information. Some of that government stuff can get. I know, some of those longer meetings can really drag on. But I think you've done a good job of distilling some of that information for a digestible way. So what do you how do you go about doing that? Taking the information that can sometimes be complex and bringing it to the audience.
I think the most important thing to keep in mind, and a thing that I try to keep in mind like at all times, is how does this impact you, the reader, right? Or, the average person, right? And so we just put up a story online about Blue Earth County kind of dealing with a tax levy increase of 8.5%. And there's a lot of highbrow numbers that are involved with that, and a lot of numbers and reasons why that levy is so high. And what I've learned is that people don't necessarily care about, well, why is the levy going up? What they care about is, okay, how much are my taxes going to go up? And so that is an essential piece to any reporting, to any story that you do on something like that. And then when you take, a complicated topic or a complex issue, I think it's just important to break it down piece by piece. Look at where does this start and how does this kind of flow down to the point that it is getting to the community.
Definitely. And of course, there are other stories you're working on too. So what are you working on today? And tell me about that and what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, today we're working on the Model T tour coming through town. So they started their morning out at Sibley. Luckily, I was chatting with Edie in the newsroom. It sounds like they just missed any of the rain or the showers that kind of strolled through earlier this morning. And then they went out to McGowan's farm for lunch. And right now they're kind of on their way out to Minneopa State Park, and they're going to kind of wrap up their day today at Unique Auto. And so, I'm going to be chatting with them and talking about, why they keep doing this, why it's important to kind of keep this tradition alive. This is the 68th year that they've done it, and why is this something that they want to keep doing, year after year?
And this is a national group of enthusiasts, is that right?
Yes.
I got a chance to link up with them at McGowan's farm, and it was really cool. It's very hot and very humid out there, but it was really cool just to see a lot of ages. But some of the things I was hearing was that it might be tough for the next generation to take this thing over, because a lot of people, a lot of the younger folks don't have the degrees of separation continues to advance with the later generation. So it'll be interesting to see the next generation of these car enthusiasts emerge, and you might see them today.
Yeah. And, Thursday they're going, and they'll be out at Farm America, and there's going to be a big demonstration out there between them and between Farm America, and that's something that I know both they and Farm America are really looking forward to. Yeah,
it was cool to see it. I'm not much of a car guy myself, but just looking at some of the care and just the level of passion that goes into some of these. I saw some license plates from Texas, Virginia, Illinois, Florida. I talked to one gentleman. So yeah, you're in for a treat. I think it'll be a good time. Certainly. What else is going on in the community?
There's always something, right? We just got done with a school board meeting earlier this week where they were talking about a long-term maintenance plan. Obviously, the big thing that's happening in North Mankato right now is the All Seasons Arena renovation and construction. Some change orders just being approved there for the city of North Mankato and Blue Earth County. and they're hoping to have that done by September. I want to say the 19th.
Yeah, and that's absolutely going to happen, right?
yeah. So, but through all the talks that I've had and through chatting with everybody involved, it sounds like everything is, basically on track, and they're able to kind of dip into this contingency fund that they have.
And some projects do end up on timeline, to be fair to
to
the folks who are working very hard to make sure these things happen. Before we get too far, I do want to mention our sponsor, Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union. I don't have the verbiage right in front of me, but they have been a really great sponsor of ours, not only for the podcast, but for the music series, the warm-up, as well as our lecture series. So if you're getting anything out of this, be sure to reach out to them for your banking needs. They're a great supporter of ours. What else do you have going on your docket today?
Well, on the docket today, finishing up something about South Central College holding tours at their campus, trying to open their doors to the community and bring in interested people. Another thing that I'm looking at and tracking is it's starting to look like it's going to be an interesting fall for our state legislators up in St. Paul. Obviously, we had we now have 3 open seats in the legislature
in a relatively short window of time, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 2026 session will start in February, and I know through talks that I've had, they're hoping to hold all 3 special elections before then. Earlier this month, Governor Walz issued a writ to establish a special election in September for Melissa Hortman's seat. And then I expect probably in the next couple of weeks after she officially resigns, Nicole Mitchell's seat will be up for special election as well. And then there's also the possibility of, with this federal budget bill that just got passed at the beginning of the month, the cuts that were made in that throwing our state budgeting all out of whack. And if it is to the point that it is completely unusable, the legislature will have to convene for a special session. Yeah,
we've got a lot of interesting and kind of unprecedented things going on with just how well, maybe not unprecedented. I'm thinking, way back in the days of the Whig Party and things like that, where things are just a little funkier. But we're seeing some things, the kind of performativity going on at these levels. So it can sometimes be hard to parse through, what's really the ground truth. So how do you go about, working out, how these stories are materializing, empirically, the ground truth of these things?
I think the important thing is to something that I have found with talking with politicians at all level, local, state, is you're going to talk with somebody from one side and they're going to tell you their view on it. And you're going to talk with somebody from another side and they're going to give you their view on it. And oftentimes the ground truth, as you were saying, lies in the middle somewhere. And I think it's important to always try to give credit where it is due and think about, okay, well, even if this isn't necessarily the case, why do they think that? Why do they believe that? Because I've often found that people's beliefs are truly held, even if they don't seem like it, or if you don't think they are. I would say that people often have these beliefs, even if they don't match reality, that are the reality to them. Yeah,
people tend to say what they mean is what I've kind of found as well. That's really fascinating that you say that, because I think so much of what we make of politics is a lot of times the public can assume that that's not what they really think, though, and sometimes maybe not totally, or maybe something that they're saying is exaggerated to some extent. But I think, to your point, I think I think we ought to take people at their word in most cases. So we have a couple of cool stories coming up. I'm personally working on a story about Nature Church. It's getting run out of Centenary Methodist just here downtown. So I'll have that coming out August 10th. Do you have anything that you're looking at doing in the abstract future, or just general topics that, since coming back to working in Mankato, that have piqued your interest at all?
Yeah, one thing that I'm starting to work on now is, at the last work session of the Blue Earth County Board meeting, they talked about the impacts of that federal budget bill coming down the pipeline, and we're going to start to see some of those impacts next year, but we're really going to see them in 2027 and 2028. Mm-hmm. And so talking with, local city and county people about, well, what exactly are these impacts going to be, and how are we going to navigate them? And, unfortunately, a lot of times the answers to how are we going to navigate this lack of funding coming from the federal side or coming from the state side is either an increase in taxes or an increase in revenue or a reduction of services. I haven't had any official talks with anybody, so I can't speak to anything more specific, but that's often the case with local governments when they don't get the funding that they need. Those are the two ways that they end up having to balance the budget. It's
really interesting that you say that, some of these things could take a couple of years to really fully materialize, and I think that goes to show just that folks, just community members, ought to pay attention to these meetings, when they're happening, because they'll wake up in a year and a half and say, hey, wait a minute, why is this being cut, or why am I having to pay more for that? So it just goes to show, I think, the importance of the work that you and others do in this space. And so what other headlines did you come across in the last couple of days? We had the Mankato man pleading guilty. Is there anything you'd care to add about that?
Yeah, we just saw the Feeding Our Future conviction there, and that's been an ongoing thing, and I think that's going to become an issue probably in this upcoming 2026 election. I would imagine that we would see a lot of talk about that, especially around how much was Governor Walz involved in it.
Right, yeah. Anything to add to that? Because that kind of, when you said that, my ears kind of perked up. Are you hearing anything else kind of on the undercurrents of the conversations you're having with that regard at all?
Nothing right now. Nothing, that we haven't heard. Obviously the people who are opposed to Governor Walz are going to say that he was the mastermind behind it all. But nothing in the specific.
Well, very good. I didn't have any other specific points that I wanted to touch on today. We had a little briefer episode today. Hope the audience isn't too bored by our conversation. I had a good time. Is there anything else you want to say to anybody? I mean, you've been here for about, a month and change now? Yeah. Anything that's you want to get off your chest, or you want to say hi to mom or anything?
No, I've just really enjoyed being able to be back here, in Mankato, and to be able to kind of tour around and see everything. And if, you're somebody who I talk to on the regular, or somebody who wants to get to know me a little more, my contact info is not hard to find. It's ebecker@mankatofreepress.com. I'd love to even just sit down and have informal chats with people.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I think that's kind of going to wrap up this week's episode. Thanks a lot, folks. Drink a lot of water. It's going to be warm out.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.